If you're tired of the standard business and marketing fundamentals, frameworks, and funnels, you need a little mischief. Get ready to turn up the volume on the CEO Mischief Maker podcast, where you access conversations with seasoned business owners who have smashed through mindset barriers, innovated the standard boring business and marketing playbooks, and executed future-paced strategies with bleeding-edge tools and tactics to micro-fail their way into massive success and growth. We are Mindset Impact Strategic Catalysts helping innovative entrepreneurs focus. We are CEO Mischief Makers. Ready to make a little mischief? Okay, welcome to Friday. I love Fridays. I so love Fridays, not because they're the end of the week, because I love what I do, but because I get to talk about the geeky stuff. All right, so welcome back to the conversation, Duane Zingale. And if you haven't listened to the first two conversations we've had, it has basically just laid up this conversation on Monday and Wednesday of this week. So go back and listen to those because we are going to get into tactics and strategy. So Duane, you were talking about this listen framework, and I love how you talked about it in our last conversation, where you really talked about the strategy that you use, or the like you talked about Jeff Walker and his PLF, and you talked about Stu McLaren and memberships. Now take how we already understand the story. You did that beautifully, set that up. Now take this listen framework and tell us how you've been able to use it to strategize for success and then implement for success, either for yourself or one of your clients.
Yeah. So something that's worked great with the listen framework, you would never guess, but setting somebody up to get on the phone and sell. And so selling high ticket items is one of a handful of ways. But last year, I connected with a fella who is kind of named himself the college financial guy. But, it's just not the same. It's just not the college is a lot more expensive than what you and I went through. Yes. I didn't go all that long ago. This was back in 2002. I went to college. But I can imagine a lot of people are going, oh, it's just college. It was, I got through college for $20,000, $30,000. Add a freaking zero and lose your mind. If you have kids going into college, you know exactly what I'm saying, because you're like, oh my God, there goes the inheritance. Yes. Anyways, connected with him. He's first and foremost a financial planner. And a big part of financial planning now is, how do you plan for your kids to get through college and not be in an armful of debt, because debt is crushing our society, and lose the inheritance because, well, you kind of wanted to keep that so you can actually retire and do all those fun things. And he had this brilliant process that he'd put together to find the right fit. Beautiful framework, right? Innovated his own way to impact, but it's a narrative drawing towards, okay, we've solved one problem. Let's open up your whole financial portfolio. So an entry offer, right? So he's drawing people. Think of it. John Maxwell uses this term, spheres of influence. And so you have the really big, I'm doing my arms, if you're listening, arms really, 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 really wide. And I always like to say, because of my past life, I was a devout believer of Jesus. I still love Jesus. But he impacted 5,000 people with loaf and fish. That's the really, really big sphere. And then on the really, really teeny inside was Jesus's heart. And he was connected to three guys in particular. And then I always like to throw the fact that he was also really connected to Mary Magdalene too. You hear the stories, if you read the history told by some of the other arms on the outside. So you had four core people on the inner circle, the inner of the inner circle, right? The next one out was the mastermind group. His next inner circle, 12 guys and some of the ladies that were in that circle, like Martha and Mary. And then, of course, the 72, right, tells the story of 72 went out and did these things. So there were 72 people multiplying his impact. And so that's kind of the way I like to think about this from a narrative, is like you're reaching 5,000. So for this guy, it was, how do I get in front of 5,000 people? Well, we realized, who needs help with college planning? Well, high schools, actually. They have the students who are juniors and seniors, and they have access to all the parents' emails. And so they could do the promotional work. I call that the location work. So the L and listen that I was laying up, right? What are we doing? Well, we're going and locating the people who would be the right fit for our community, right? So already feels a lot warmer than, let's go hook them, guys. Come on, let's put them on a fish hook and drag them in. Crank that reel.
Sell them
right?
something. Let's get some money off of these
Sell 'em.
people. Yeah. Oh my
right.
gosh.
Oh, stop saying, okay. Missions lesson: you can never see dollar signs over people's heads. And so if you're going out and starting this work with dollar signs over someone's head, you've already broken your impact. It's not about the dollars. That is a measurement of your impact. Anyway, so you're going out and locating. So we got in touch with 7 high schools, right? Real simple. We didn't have to get in touch with hundreds of high schools because these 7 high schools had, I mean, you're talking about Georgia in this instance. So they're not small high schools. So this gave him immediate access. And he had a set of webinars that he produced. So we did them as workshops. And so we went and invited people to attend these workshops. Pre-COVID era, these were in-person workshops. And when we met, he was like, oh my God, COVID, what do I do? I was like, dude, we do these online all the time. It's like, oh, right. I've attended a ton of these. He's a marketer trapped in a financial planner's body. And he's like, oh, I can do this. And so we invited, right? Think about that. It's already a warm, fuzzy feeling. So instead of having people opt in for your free lead magnet, better words, right? Being magnetized towards something. I'll give you that phrase. That one's actually been really useful because we want to feel that magnetic umption
pull to something similar.
Something similar, to be pulled into a community, to be pulled into your charisma. But that pull should feel inviting, right? That's what the pull is. It's an invitation. That invitation we put out there in the form of a workshop. Now, a workshop's not always the best tactic on the front, but this is where the application of these steps are more strategic and narrative than they are tactics. I have a whole list, if you really want to ask me for them, of like, hey, each step has a list of tactics that you can use. You need to know how to apply them appropriately per the context of your mission. And so we reached out to these high schools. They promoted the invitation, but we had the whole thing ready. Hey, warm welcome to this summer series. How do you plan for your juniors or your junior going to senior, right? You've got a whole year in front of you. How are you going to get the most out of this year? Getting your finances, your college admissions, your scholarships, and right, here's a whole sequence of webinars that are going to get you through your planning this summer as a parent to guide your student to do the things that they don't want to do, right? So getting the parents engaged because, well, let's face it, they're the ones that are going to have to pay for it in most instances. And so that invitation led to a survey. S for the survey is very akin to Ryan Levesque's Ask method, another real genuine dude. And what that does is we positioned people towards the, what is it called? College money report. Lo and behold, there's these buckets, to use Ryan's word, right? These avenues of thinking and need in this instance that college-bound students have. Some of them did really well in high school and they'll have high merit. Some of them might need to make up for some missed points and they have low merit, right? We're talking scholarships, FAFSA, all these college admissions items that can get you more or less money because of how well they did. You know, for that 4.0 GPA that I did not get, and why I'm better as an entrepreneur. Some people are just wired and they might have gotten a 2.6, but I'm a kick-ass businessman. Anyways, and then they're that plus they're either high need or low need, right? So that's going to be where, yes, you qualify for federal funds or not. Yes, you qualify for this or not. And so that college money report then has 4 outcomes where you can use the automation to have a conversation in context. And this is what prevents, when I was talking about becoming the automated asshole, when you can't apply nuance to automation, then maybe, just maybe, you should find a way to apply nuance. And that's what the survey is meant to do, is to take, right, we started the context, planning your college finances and getting in college. Then we've taken and segmented, right? So the secret S behind survey is to create a segment so you can talk to people appropriately. Sometimes your lead magnets, right? These magnetic, simple PDFs, reports, there's all sorts of tools where we can create. But if that PDF is very, very, very nuanced, like entrepreneurs who want to actually have a vacation, now you have a segment of people because you've essentially leveraged the invite, but you can actually ask a question. And you've experienced this with Jeff Walker, Ryan Levesque, Stu McLaren, Ray Edwards. They're all doing this. Hey, I want to get this thing. Oh, wait, quick, before I give you my thing, what type of business are you? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, right? Great quick way. And then suddenly you can change 20% of your copy or the video they're going to get, right? And then it has that nuance. So you can talk to coaches, consultants, and John Maxwell leaders, because I actually have a huge network of John Maxwell leaders. And so sometimes I put leaders out there, and then I can say, hey, leaders, right? You can use language that feels tailored and nuanced. Anyways, that's my passion point of preventing everyone else from being an automated a-hole. So we pulled them in, and on the back end of that workshop and college money report, we were actually pulling for just a 20-minute call because college planning is very nuanced and we're selling a high ticket item. So when selling high ticket, you want to take into account, you need to have a presentation, a person, and a pitch, right? So you're laying up a sale, people need all three of those elements when it's over $2,000, unless if your name is Tony Robbins, right? If you have the notoriety, prices change. But for all of us awesome normal folk who don't have the name Tony Robbins, $2,000 is a good threshold. And then you pull people in that 20-minute call is a teaching. Now, most teachings you might experience in the more automated world, webinars, product launch formula, a video sales letter, right? We can teach and just use digital means. However, right, this is a great place in this instance. Hey, I want to have a discovery call and just teach you how to find the right fit. Like, which kind of college is right for you? And college is a big decision. Is Ivy League for you or not? Because that's a different game. Should you be going to a community college to prep and build up the, and so they can get into those nuanced items and then give really tailored guidance, whether somebody's going to buy or not. And then from there, of course, you can move on to the E. And as we discussed, empower people to make the purchase, to make the decision. And so from this 20-minute call that they provide, we're able to get out there and then go, hey, this is what you need. And because that 20-minute call can lead to, hey, they need this. They just need college financial help. They need college finances and admissions, or, hey, they're not a good fit to pay $5,000, but we have a $500. Then we can take the sales conversation into something that's appropriate for their income. We're at those buckets. We took their merit, their needs. And so teaching them appropriately. And then off the back of that, we've seen, in 3 months, we saw like $72,000 in sales. So just a high threshold of sales. And of course, part of that was getting, okay, you're only selling, right? These are all KPIs, right? When we're listening to people, we can listen to the nonverbal communication of the internet, our numbers, our KPIs. And so we can go, oh, and then I was able to go, wait, we're having really good numbers and we're getting to these phone calls and it's falling off a cliff. Like, what's going on? Well, none of them are this and this and this and this and this. And we identified a new opportunity to sell something. And so this is a great point. You just evaluate. It's often, oh, well, what do they need? Well, they need something that's not $5,000.
Yeah.
Could you sell them something for $500 that's video recordings of what you do for $5,000? Or could you do it in a group? Right. And so then it's a learning point. And then, of course, you always want to finish with nurturing a community, because that community of buyers is the ones that are going to go from the 5,000 into the 500 towards the 72. And so when we think about it is in terms of spheres of influence coming closer to your inner circle, they're coming closer in relationship with you. In this instance, right, it's college planning. It's a little unique that way. The college students are coming, or they're college bound, right? They're coming up to the college season and then going, and then it's bringing financially from college to, well, okay, how about stocks, bonds, crypto, and all of them?
Yeah.
A world I don't understand as well as the college stuff yet. So this is kind of thinking a little bit of that, but that nurture, there's a lot of layers in there. It's your lifetime value, right? Somebody coming the once for the one thing is probably going to come to the next thing and the next thing. And eventually they're paying you $500 a month for a mastermind, or $5,000 a month for a mastermind. Who knows? You can have all sorts of array depending on your market. But the best thing that I always like to think of, and Mike Kim did this recently, but a lot of people do it. He presented, you are the brand certification program. And what I like to think about it is, just like Jesus did, eventually his legacy was passed on and multiplied through other people, 72 people. They got certified and they got licensed in the Jesus Christ method, so to speak, right? And he was able to pass on that impact of everything he knew. And instead of scaling this grand business, totally perfect if you have a SaaS company, go scale that to the wazoo. But when you're a coach and a consultant, what you're really wanting to do is pass on that legacy impact. And if you certify someone, one, you make money. Two, they now have a tool, like all these John Maxwell team coaches, to go out and build a business. And so you're actually taking the economy, and instead of just growing it a little bit by scaling your business, you're multiplying the economic impact by giving people the tools, the coaching, the consulting, to then have a bit of a framework that can either, take mine. So mine is now intertwined. It's a personal branding listen framework, but some people can take it. Oh, you are the brand copywriting. You are the brand, right? The listen framework for leadership, right? I could take this exact same thing and people could use it in many, 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 many different ways. And it's people getting creative. And so eventually you're nurturing the multiplication effect through your community. And so you're going from making those introductions, building relationship with initial purchases, and then building a community of clients who can multiply your impact. So that's the listen framework.
So let's take it each letter at a time. So the L, if I remember you correctly, you were talking location, or was it something different? Okay, location. And then invitation. Yeah, locate your audience. And then invitation, invite them in, right? Then S is survey. And then T is teach. And then E is empower. And then N is nurture.
Correct. Yeah.
I got it. So it makes perfect sense to take that framework and apply it to whatever it is you're wanting to do, whatever you're selling, whatever you're promoting, whatever you're launching. And each of those, obviously, you can go much deeper in each one, but at least that whole strategy and concept, you took us from a strategy and concept to very specific pieces of that framework and how you applied it to one particular business. Brilliant. Thank you. That's exactly what we love to hear and dive into and chew on. So the listeners, all right, you CEO mischief makers, you brand mischief makers listening, how are you going to use this listen framework the next time you either launch something of your own, or you want to expand something of your own, or you're doing it for your business, your agency, the clients that you serve? Duane, this has been an incredible couple of conversations. Thank you so much for bringing us into your world. Do you have any last thoughts for the people listening on either how to use this framework or just in general in mindset and impact?
Yeah. So, last thoughts. Lo and behold, one of the best things you can do, you're like, oh man, I have this great idea, but I don't. And I'm kind of flushing this out right now. But the fact is, the best way to validate what you're thinking, right? You're like, oh man, I want to get this new course out there. There's always something new inside of you because we're mischief makers. Use the listen framework, and I've created a subset of emails. Think about each one of those as an email campaign to just talk to your list. Don't have a list? No problem. You have a list, right? You have 10 people you can start emailing and just really kind of validating that concept. Don't build it and hope they will come. Build relationship, build the community, and sell to them. And so when you really listen, you get into the conversation inside someone's head, you can launch something that people will actually pay for, that you can then, build for them as you go. So, it's not always best to build a ship before it's set sail, but as in the entrepreneurial world, sometimes you got to set sail and start building the ship.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for spending this time with us and sharing this really incredible brilliance. I love this framework, and I've loved the conversations that you and I have had. I can't wait for us to get together again for another cup of coffee. Hopefully I won't be stuck in traffic and be an hour late next time. But I am so honored to be able to share the mic with you and bring this message to everyone listening to our voices. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. It's always a joy to help anybody practicing marketing practice it better and have a bigger impact. And I do have that. I figured out my name is hard to spell. Listenframework.com, and you've got it. You've got your own little layup of, you're like, what were those letters again? Right here it is. So little pointer, buy URL for your lead magnets.
Yes. Okay, hold on. If your mindset was shifted, you were inspired to innovate, and you were spurred into action, don't just move on with your day. Focus, my friend, and take a few minutes to visit CEOmischiefmaker.com to learn more about the value that was shared with you today. Please act now and create some CEO mischief of your own.